What's going on, everybody? Joe here for another show. Uh, you guys have heard me say many times bots, bot farms, so on and so forth. You understand what I mean in most cases, most of you do. But it's important to understand that when people say the word bots, you're not talking about like robots. You're not talking about only code or anything like that. Bot farms are generally, a lot of them are located in South Asia. They are used by different countries to sway the thought processes of any given country, specifically the United States, and especially around election years. That is important to understand. It's people that are behind the phones many times, the devices, and so on. Now, some countries are cracking down on them, other countries, not so much, because they make money. So I wanted to start there and just show you this. This is an example of a bot farm. You need to understand that what you're about to see, these are all over South Asia, some parts of Russia, Europe, some of the more, seedy parts of Europe, and so on. And these do exist. I don't think people quite understand what one looks like. So let's take a look. This is just an 18-second video, but this will give you an idea of what you're dealing with. And there you have it. That is exactly what I am talking about when I say bot farm. These in many cases, these will be people behind a screen as well. This one seems to be a little more automated than some of the other ones. But you'll see people with a bank of phones around them. They type out what they've been told to type out. It sends out to multiple accounts across multiple platforms. Facebook, X, Instagram, you name it, depending especially on what the content is, it goes out. That's why every now and again, you'll see a message that will go out across a bunch of accounts that sound almost exactly the same. Now, Democrats do their own kind of natural version of this, plus employ bots as well, as do many rhinos. I'm not going to lie there. Thomas Massey relies heavily on bot traffic for him on X. Like his local support is way nowhere near the support he supposedly has on X. But let's take a look. I bring this up because I wanted to show you this. Today I was scrolling X and I came across a post, and I will show it to you in a moment right here. This post here from Aunka, right? Let's take a look at what it says. In newly released Epstein files, Trump was bragging to his friends that he was banging his personal secretary, Madeleine Westerhort, during first term. That sounds like broken English, obviously. So what we'll do is we'll drag this off. I'll open up a new little thing here, and we'll do what we usually do, and we'll put it in full screen here. And we'll take a look at the very first, 1 second. We'll take a look at the very first line to kind of see exactly what we're looking at. So here it is. It's still a little small. Let me see if I can. I don't think I can make it bigger. Damn it, it's still small. What if I do this? There we go. Let's do that and then see if that makes a difference. Yeah, that made all the difference. There we go. This is from Michael Wolff. If you recall, Michael Wolff was the TDS-driven weirdo writer who was trying to find any reason to take Trump down, including but not limited to talking to Jeffrey Epstein about Trump. Let me get this light on too. So I forgot to turn that on. You can see right in the first line. This is what I'm now going with. What do you think? And then he goes with the story right here about how in the White House, the president, to general surprise, announced that he would not accompany his family to Mar-a-Lago over the holidays, a confounding, even alarming turn for anyone who knew how much he valued a Gulf and warm weather opportunity over any presidential business, which was not true at all. Melania certainly had no intention of staying behind. Among other issues, Friends suggested that she was still furious about his fireside Christmas Eve chat with 7-year-old boy, during which Trump asked the boy if he still believed in Santa. Melania didn't think that was funny. Something 90. These equal signs, by the way, people use these equal signs, just so you know, as evidence for things, but these equal signs are just replacing characters from the translation from the file to what they publish it. There's a whole video on YouTube about it. Said one aide, Trump was clearly a guy who never dealt with a 7-year-old, which is nonsense. He has grandchildren, but whatever. Westerhout had been the elevator girl in Trump Tower during the transition. The comely young woman, see how it replaced M with the equal signs here? Right here. Oh, it's not doing it here. Right here. Right here. That's supposed to be an M. That's just translation error. Ferrying dignitaries and job seekers up to the president-elect soon became something of a meme herself. Bannon recalled noting that Trump took particular interest in her. A leering Trump kept repeating, she something 80s got way about her. His signature and creepy stamp of approval for a young, and you see the W's missing with the equal sign woman. Now the president was telling friends that he wasn't staying at the White House because of the shutdown. He was staying because he was banging this chick. Shutdown bravado, locker room talk are all part of the new alternative reality that no one had seemed to be, that only he seemed to be living in. Okay, so that's the story, right? And I showed you the account that this came from. Unka, right? Let's take a look at Unka and see where they come from. Oh, what do you know? Southeast Asia. Southeast Asia, where a lot of these bot farms are. Their photo is literally AI. That's an AI generated image. And you can see they just randomly post propagandist type stuff. Just kind of a mouthpiece or whatever for whoever's controlling that particular bot account. Now, I replied in comments, another account based in Southeast Asia, well known for their bot farms. Anyway, I hope this helps. So let's take a look at what this says. I'll bring it over to the other page so that we can actually see it. And there we go. And there we go. Let me bring this over. Boom. Okay. Oops, I brought it to the wrong one. Come on, computer, work with me here. Good Lord. All right, here we go. There we go. The woman is Madeleine Westerhout, blah, blah, blah. This goes on. The rumor you're referencing seems to stem from recently released documents from Jeffrey Epstein's file, unsealed in batches in late 2025 and early 2026 by the Department of Justice and Epstein's estate, which include the 2019 email from author Michael Wolff to Epstein. In it, Wolff shared a draft excerpt from his book, Siege, Trump Under Fire. Okay, so then it goes on to say, however, these claims have been widely dismissed as unproven gossip or fabrications. Westerhout, through her attorney, called the allegations absurd and defamatory in a statement after the files released. The White House also responded to the Bannon-Epstein text, labeling them as salacious and a false rumor. Wolff is known for sensational reporting on Trump in books like Fire and Fury, and critics have pointed out that the email to Epstein starts with, now this is what I'm going with. What do you think? Like, bro. Suggesting it might have been a speculative or collaborative draft rather than the verified fact. And then here's the actual truth. As for the specific Christmas angle in 2018, you're correct that the rumor tying it to Westerhout or any affair doesn't hold up. The Trumps had planned their traditional holiday at Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach, Florida, as they did most years. Melania and their son Barron arrived there on December 21st, 2018, but due to the partial government shutdown, which the Democrats were even doing back then for no reason, which began December 22nd over border wall funding disputes, Trump chose to remain in Washington, D.C., didn't negotiate with Congress. Melania then made a last-minute return flight to D.C. on December 24th, Christmas Eve, specifically to spend the holiday with him at the White House. White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders confirmed at the time, due to the shutdown, President Trump will remain in Washington, D.C., and the First Lady will return from Florida so they can spend Christmas together. They celebrated together in D.C. So that is all debunked and stupid. All debunked and stupid. So there you have it. You can screenshot that if you want to share it under anybody's post that ever puts that up or whatever, and keep the record straight on that. But that is where the term bot farm comes from. It's not robots. It's not random people or like random code or whatever. It's actual people behind these things. And many people don't realize when they see the op. They don't check the country of origin. They don't check any of these things. Just like people don't really check out who our representatives are. One of the biggest grifters on Epstein right now would be this woman, Nancy Mace. If you recall, Nancy Mace is the woman who last year, when there was a big vote to be had, she was at home. Everybody was called back to Washington, D.C. She made a TikTok video of herself in pajamas traveling from home to D.C. with her little lap dog, stopping to eat, this, that, and the other. It was the cringiest thing you've ever seen. Well, she's latched onto the Epstein files to try to remain relevant. And here we go. 3.5 million documents confirmed Jeffrey Epstein. This is one of a slew. She was not talking about this for the longest time. Now she won't shut up about it. And she's sharing nonsense. But anyway, Epstein preyed on children in South Carolina. A 13-year-old girl from Hilton Head Island said sent to babysit. No children were there. Just a predator who drugged her, raped her, and told her to recruit more victims. The FBI knew and did nothing. She suffered in silence for 30 years. Okay, so the FBI knew and did nothing. She claims right here. Keep that in mind. The FBI knew, come on, and did nothing. You can see she said that right here, okay? She suffered in silence for 30 years while Epstein lived free, wealthy, and untouchable. This is what happens when the powerful are protected instead of prosecuted. To every survivor in South Carolina and beyond, we see you, we believe you, and we will not stop until every monster who hurt you is behind bars. Okay, so first off, you can see that it says the FBI did nothing, but it also says right here, no children were there, just a predator who drugged her, raped her, and told her to recruit more victims. This says nothing. Her accusations say nothing about anybody else involved in anything to do with extra abuse. And this is what I had to say. She had zero proof, just a story. They used her case as more evidence against Ghislaine. She got a payout, but the bar to get the payout was not set very high. End of the day, she accused Epstein, no others, and he went to prison, then died. Maxwell is in prison. And those are the facts. I've shown you that the bar for this sort of thing for the payout was set very low. You didn't have to bring proof. You didn't need to be in a photo with Epstein. You didn't need to be in a photo anywhere on the island. You didn't need documented proof. You didn't need a scrap of proof to show that you existed there. You just need a story that made sense, that loosely fit with the public knowledge about the case that was already out, thanks to some of the trials and some of the documents and so on. There wasn't a lot of documents out there. There were some, but enough to piece together stories and so on. Everybody knew about the plane. Everybody knew about the island. Everybody knew about his Palm Beach home. Everybody knew about the Arizona ranch. Or was it Arizona? Yeah, I think it's Arizona ranch. No, New Mexico ranch. Everybody knew about his New York home. So with that knowledge, a lot of people were able to get a payout. And there was no high bar set for proof that you were actually a victim. Okay? And that's what I mean when I say that. The payout was not, the bar to get the payout was not set high at all. It wasn't. So that's not proof just because somebody got a payout. Out of like I don't even remember, it's a couple hundred maybe people, only 70 were declined because their story was not meshing with the facts, okay? So, and I'm just saying, the people that she accused, which would be Jeffrey Epstein, and this supposedly happened in the 80s, are in jail or dead, okay? Period. And I'm not even positive if Ghislaine Maxwell even knew Epstein in the 80s, to be honest, but they used this at her trial. Let me see that really quick. I don't remember ever hearing anything about that. I thought that they met maybe the 90s. Yeah, there you go. So they used this chick at her trial. at Ghislaine's trial, and she didn't even know him. Now, let me ask one last thing here to Grok. I'm asking one last question. We'll find out what it says. You can see what I'm typing. Let's see what it says. And there it is, mid-1990s. Okay, so I asked it, when did Epstein verifiably start recruiting and abusing young women? Mid-1990s, as the earliest reliable corroborated period with strong evidence from 1994 onward. Yet the accuser that Nancy Mace is sharing says that this happened in the 80s. There's another hole in the story. Now, you can do this with almost every accuser, by the way. Even the ones that got the payouts and even the ones that went to court. A lot of these accusers or victims actually were helping to traffic women to Epstein at the end of the day. It's absolutely insane. But that's the reality of it, and we're supposed to ignore that. Nancy Mace wants you to ignore that, as a matter of fact, because then she can't grift off of it. So there's that little bit of information. You're going to see bots pushing this. You got these influencer wannabe people in Congress who push all this stuff just to distract you from Trump wins, I think. I don't see any other reason to push fake shit, but that's what's happening. Meanwhile, if you recall, this is what's going on in New York. I just want to show you what Democrats are up to. The last show that I did, I showed you that, I've shown you this before too, but there's more to this story. But I showed you how when Democrats won the governorship in Virginia, well, all of a sudden it's going to be tax your dog walking, tax your car repairs, tax your electric yard equipment, tax. Then this happened in New York with Mamdani, who had promised New Yorkers and illegals free. You're going to have free and fast public transportation, for example. Not safe. He never used the word safe, just free and fast. But listen to this.
For those who have watched budget after budget, it is tempting to assume that we are engaging in the same dance as our predecessors. Let me assure you, nothing about this is typical. That's why our solutions won't be either. There are two paths to bridge this gap. The first is the most sustainable and the fairest path. This is the path of ending the drain on our city and raising taxes on the richest New Yorkers and the most profitable corporations. The onus for resolving this crisis should not be placed on the backs of working and middle-class New Yorkers. If we do not fix this structural imbalance and do not heed the calls of New Yorkers to raise taxes on the wealthy, this crisis will not disappear. It will simply return, year after year, forcing harder and harsher choices each time. And if we do not go down the first path, the city will be forced down a second, more harmful path. Faced with no other choice, the city would have to exercise the only revenue lever fully within our own control. We would have to raise property taxes.
And dip into the savings and retirement accounts.
For those who have watched
and
budget after...
also dip into the rainy day fund. Now, he's not going to be able to tax the rich, and even if he did, sorry, I got to readjust, they would end up moving out of the city and go to Florida, go somewhere else. And then they think they could tax them once they move out anyway, but that's unconstitutional, for one, so that wouldn't hold, and he knows it. So he's pretty screwed. He's going to end up raising taxes, as everybody told these idiots before they voted for him, that he's promising the moon, and he can't give you any of it because he's just a mayor, for one. For two, Kathy Hochul isn't going to let, it takes the state, not the city, to raise taxes on people. A mayor cannot do that. You would think left-wing people, who are always the smartest people in the room, would know how government works, but apparently not. When you've got people like that Cynthia Nixon, I think her name is, from Sex and the City out there, Mom Donnie, it's just the dumbest people on earth that these people listen to. And then this is what they get for their tax money. Look at this. This is a bridge in New York City right now. Can you imagine?
Emergency, emergency, emergency.
And meanwhile, they're promising the world to illegals, right? The reason they're in this mess is because of everything they've given to illegal people. But don't worry, they are gonna get some snow coming up here soon. Mom Donnie has a plan for that. And it's actually a pretty good one for New Yorkers. It's a good deal. Let's take a listen to what his plan is.
And we're utilizing 33 DSNY vans and 2 DSNY buses to transport shovelers where they're needed faster. And for those who want to do more to help your neighbors and earn some extra cash, you too can become an emergency snow shoveler. Just show up at your local sanitation garage between 8 a.m. and 1 p.m. tomorrow with your paperwork, which is accessible online at nyc.gov/snow, and you can get started right away. And we're utilizing 33 DSNY vans.
Isn't that amazing? We can recruit New Yorkers to go shovel out their neighbors. That is an amazing idea. They're broke, so they might as well pay extra people to shovel snow. Let's see what it takes to get that job. I'm sure it's super easy because we don't need anything important because, voter ID. And oh, wait a minute. To register for an appointment, workers must have 2 small photos, 1 to 1/2 inch square, 2 original forms of ID plus copies, and a social security card. What? Just to shovel snow for the city? I need to be able to prove that I'm a person? Weird. So the same people that tell you that you don't need this kind of identification. I mean, would this be called a snow shovel tax? What if I want to shovel snow and I don't have a social security card to get an ID? Let alone 2 original forms of ID plus copies. I'm just saying, that's obviously a snow shovel tax. You're being taxed. Because now I got to go get my social security card. By the time I get that, the snowstorm's going to be over. Just awful. Just terrible decisions that these people are making. People need to be able to shovel snow and get paid without proving who they are. Just another reminder as to who Democrats are. Again, this is coming from Western Lensman. You can read the tag up there. I'll make it a little bit bigger for you. There we go. This is why you need to show up and you need to vote in 2026 for the midterms. It's important that these people do not regain power. Ever. Listen to this.
The other side does the mean, angry,
demagoguery,
exclusive, us, them, divisive politics. That's their home court.
Yeah.
Our court
says the people that light cities on fire when they lose an election, right? Burn Teslas, attack ICE for doing their constitutional bylaw duties as ICE officers. The people who call them Nazi Gestapo, the people who call black people who vote for Trump and support Trump house ends and Uncle Toms and you name it. It's the other side that does all that stuff, not us guys. Don't look our direction.
Is coming together.
For those that decided that it was, that they would act in their perceived very narrow self-interest and, take a knee to Trump, they're going to be held accountable by those who come in opposition to Trump and win at the ballot box. If these corporations think that the Democrats, when they come back in power, are going to, play by the old rules, I think they've got another thing coming. There will be an accountability agenda. This is not going to be an instance of, forgive and forget.
There you have it. They're broadcasting exactly what they plan on doing. People are going to pay the price for supporting Trump. That's what she said. That's her words, not my words. That's what she said. I mean, it's absolutely astounding that these people say we're going to not play by the same old rules. What same old rules? Arresting a president? Raiding his home? Stuff like that? Is that the rules you're talking about? I mean, we just found out that the Biden White House was actually in communication with the FBI before the raid. I mean, I don't know if you've seen this yet, but here you have it. They were lying the whole time, just like we knew.
Breaking tonight, a Fox News exclusive. We have new information that appears to directly contradict the Biden administration's insistence it had nothing to do with the Justice Department investigations into then former President Trump's alleged retention of classified material and the subsequent raid on his Mar-a-Lago home. Correspondent David Spunt has details tonight. Good evening, David.
Brett, good evening to you. These emails obtained by Fox News paint a different picture of the relationship between the Biden White House and the Biden Justice Department. These two offices made it clear at the time, at least publicly, they were not connected and stayed away from any political interference. However, new emails obtained by Fox News from May 2022, 3 months before Mar-a-Lago was raided by the FBI, illustrates coordination between the White House counsel's office and the DOJ regarding an interview of Walt Nauta. Now, remember, Walt Nauta is a current White House aide to President Trump, who was then former President Trump's aide in Florida. Nauta was later charged alongside Trump by special counsel Jack Smith. The May 10th, 2022 email reads in part, coordination with DOJ and White House counsel are in work to start the process to confirm and interview current administration employee Walt Nauta. This event is dependent upon the timeline of President Biden's brief decision and coordination between White House counsel and DOJ, and in turn, Evan Corcoran's position on the override of privilege assertion and whether or not he seeks an injunction to prevent access. That was written by an FBI agent, and Evan Corcoran, of course, one of Trump's lawyers at the time. This coming August, Brett, will mark 4 years since FBI agents raided Mar-a-Lago. A few days after that, then Attorney General Merrick Garland said this.
I personally approved the decision to seek a search warrant in this matter. Second, the department does not take such a decision lightly.
And we're getting new reaction to these emails. Judiciary Chairman Jim Jordan in the House says in part, it's always worse than we thought. These newly released documents confirm that the Biden DOJ's raid on Mar-a-Lago was politically motivated. We're also hearing from Attorney General Pam Bondi. AG Bondi says the more we learn about the DOJ weaponization under the prior administration, the worse the story gets. And Brett, she says this right here. It's a key part. She says we will continue disclosing key evidence to our congressional partners to deliver the truth and bring those who committed crimes to justice. That's coming from the Attorney General tonight. Brett.
And of course, they'll say that's weaponization on Trump's end, but they actually committed crimes. I'm just letting you know. And they spied on a whole bunch of congressional members as well. So I told you how the tariffs blew up yesterday. Got an angry liberal in comments and trying to insult me because, you know, YouTube's algorithm is all jacked up. Oh, you did all this 40-minute long video for only 8 views? Like, bro, you don't make videos, obviously, on YouTube. You don't know how that works. But I showed you on that video. I just laugh at these people and mute them from the channel so that you all don't have to be bothered with them. After I make fun of them, of course. But at the end of the day, he's raised the tariffs. He's doing exactly what he's doing, and he's doing it with laws that are much more solid than the one that he used to get these countries to the table to negotiate. Is a big loss for the Democrats. But let's do a little quick rewind on Democrats, as a matter of fact. Let's listen to Chuck Schumer.
Look, I think the president's doing the right thing. China has been taking advantage of us for two decades. They're stealing our intellectual property, which means stealing our good-paying jobs. And I, frankly, am closer on this issue, not on many, but on this issue with President Trump than I was with Presidents Bush or Obama, because they did nothing to tell China off. Now, China, of course, will respond. But if they know we're strong and we're not going to back off, they will back off. They have far more to lose than we do. They have a $300 billion trade surplus with us. So I'm looking out, number one, for jobs. You know, if General Electric moves jobs to China, they're not unhappy, but my New York workers in Schenectady are unhappy. And so you can't let the international business companies who don't give a hoot about where their factories are govern this. You have to do what's good for the American worker. Look, I think the...
Isn't it amazing how things change the more they lose? Isn't that just amazing how it all changes the more they lose? Well, we have this as well. I think I should bring this to your attention. Where did it go? There it is. 3 Silicon Valley engineers charged with sending Google secrets to Iran. To Iran. That's amazing. That's amazing. We need more H-1B. I'm so glad Trump's actually cutting it, though. So glad that Trump's actually cutting it. So a new PSYOP just dropped. This time, before it was the PSYOP on glyphosate, whatever it is. I don't know why I can't say it right. You know what I'm talking about. But the psyop on that was that, oh, you know, Trump got donations from this company Bayer, and they make it glyphosate. That's what it is. And they you know, now he's gonna be making farmers use it. No, what happened with that is that it's under the Emergency Authorization Act. It's for, let's say China decides, you know, they bought up a bunch of farmland after all. Let's say they decide to release some like very invasive plant species that starts taking over the Midwest fields one summer, right? And to the point where it's just restricting their crops, it's killing their crops and so on. These things exist, by the way. Trump wants to have that on hand for just in case, right? One thing you got to understand about that particular product is that it's the WHO that said that it possibly causes cancer, that there's a moderate risk of cancer. The WHO, as if you trust the WHO is owned by China, by the way, just run by China at this point. They're the ones that said that, okay? In reality, they tested it on animals and found that it moderately caused cancer in animals. Another thing that's important to understand about this, things that cause cancer in animals don't cause cancer in humans. Things that cause cancer in humans might cause cancer in animals. Most humans can eat a decent amount of chocolate and not throw up. Most animals can even eat a little bit of chocolate or they'll throw up and possibly die. Do you see how this works? Animal studies are great, but it needs to move on to human trials before you can say 100% that that is the case. Unfortunately, with this particular trial, the human trial would be they get cancer if it's true. So we don't really truly know whether it does or not. Now you're going to tell me, oh, but they settled lawsuits with people. They settled lawsuits with a handful of people who claim that they got it from this particular thing because they happen to have used it and got this cancer. It's some kind of, it's not like, what is it? It's, I can't think of which kind of cancer it was. But they settled because it was easier than just going to court, paying lawyers for a long period of time. Just here's your money, shut the hell up, nobody cares, right? I am not defending big corporations on any level, but in this particular instance, it reminds me of the same thing that happened with GMOs, where Big Agro was like, ooh, these bioengineered foods are much easier to create and blah, 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 blah. Let's demonize GMO and say that that's bad, even though GMO is like literally everything you eat. It's all cannabis strains. It's literally everything, period. GMO is not bad, right? I've done shows on this in the past too. End of the day, I feel like it's the same type of campaign, but Trump isn't forcing them to use it. It's for emergency use. If there's an emergency event where we may need it, we have it, and it doesn't have to come in from overseas. That's simple. But they made it sound like he's bringing it in to force farmers to use it. No, not at all. It's going to be stored for future use if needed for an emergency. That's simple. The new PSYOP, however, which these two dropped within pretty much 24 hours of each other, because, you know, you can't have a cycle where we're not constantly attacking the Trump administration, is this right here. The US FDA has retreated from their plan to ban artificial colors in food per The Guardian. Instead, the FDA will loosen requirements for companies to state no artificial colors, allow products that may contain dangerous substances such as titanium dioxide that state no artificial colors. Agreed to what critics label handshake with big food, with more details expected soon. But here's the rub. That's factually inaccurate. Claiming the Trump administration is coming from she thinks freely, and I've verified this. The Trump admin is retreating on removing artificial food dyes as it's honest at best. This policy is in regard to the artificial dyes hasn't changed at all. It hasn't. Still not going to be, they're going to be phasing it out. The artificial dyes are still being phased out. Yep, see? Here's the change. The old rule lumped everything in together, which it did. Petroleum-based lab dyes and colors derived from natural sources. So when you accidentally write the language to where everything's kind of lumped together, you kind of got to rewrite the language. Naturally derived colors are no longer misclassified as artificial. That's it. There's been no retreat. Anyone indicating otherwise is lying. So basically, they rewrote the language slightly so that everything wasn't lumped in. And say you're using, hell, I don't even know, some kind of red fruit to dye your cereal red, right? Now it's not lumped in. You can use it, okay? Because artificial technically, if that product is made with wheat, say it's a cereal, and the natural color before dyes is just light brown or dark brown or whatever, like probably light brown, before you use another thing, be it like, let's say, this is just an example, guys. I'm sure this isn't one of the things, but let's say you want it to be orange, so you're using some kind of tomato dye, right, made from tomatoes. That could be considered artificial the way that it was written before, if that makes sense, because it's not the natural color of that product before you put that in there. They have fixed that. So that's all that happened there. So that's another psyop. And then we've got, where did it go? This coming from our Secretary of Housing. You're going to want to listen to what he has to say here, our Secretary of HUD, Scott Turner. Listen to this really quick.
We eliminated non-permanent residence eligibility for FHA-insured mortgages. And we are auditing public housing authorities to ensure taxpayer dollars don't support illegal aliens. American dollars should benefit American citizens and American citizens only. By focusing on our core mission, HUD provided a pathway for home ownership and supported housing affordability for more than 1 million Americans through FHA and Ginnie Mae. We also take stewardship very seriously, so we're cracking down on waste and fraud and abuse. Our Office of the Chief Financial Officer uncovered more than $5 billion in potential payment errors, over $50 billion in total rental assistance for the fiscal year 2024. And that includes money that went to nearly 30,000 dead people. That is ludicrous. It's ridiculous to even think or talk in such a way. It's a violation of our sacred trust to American taxpayers, and it has to end, and it will. We eliminated
So we were giving aid, home mortgages to illegal aliens. And people wonder why it's so expensive to get a house as an American. And that is one of the reasons why. So this just came out. This is from February 20th. So this is from yesterday. Let's go ahead and let this play for a minute. I wanted you to get a little listen of this as well, because quite interesting, because none of these influencers, you know, this shady cat right here, he runs a lot of, he pays a lot of these influencers, even if they're not on his show. They will appear on his show. You'll notice that he's recycled through a lot of these shows, Tim Pool, so on and so forth, and vice versa. Listen to this.
Why was he talking about replacing Trump, swapping Pompeo as the VP with Mike Pence, and then using the 25th Amendment to make Pompeo the president? These are text messages with what is assumed to be Epstein, confirmed to be with Bannon. Quote, I like the idea of Pence stepping down in favor of Pompeo, so when it happens, he becomes president. That's from allegedly Epstein. And I'm thinking, it? What do you mean by it? Bannon responding, that is his name, has this been shopped? Epstein replies, Rudy did lay out impeachment, Pelosi vote, and don't go after Ivanka. Bannon says, great. Great. Impeaching Trump? Well, I mean, we now know Pompeo was not a product of MAGA doctrine and was heavily critical of Trump once he left his first term, showing his true colors. And Bannon wanted him to become president? Am I reading that? There's a possibility that Bannon did nothing wrong and these are being misinterpreted. There's a possibility, giving him the benefit of the doubt here, considering he was, like, I defended this guy. I thought he was good for the administration initially. But there's some splaining to do about beyond talking about a documentary to revitalize Jeffrey Epstein's image. A lot of people have a lot of explaining to do, way beyond the island, way beyond sexual assault and all those, and rape and all those things. The more this stuff comes out, the more people keep getting caught in stuff that makes people like me question absolutely everything. Everything is now up for question. Mostly proving that Trump and all the conspiracy theorists, we were right about a ton of stuff. Keep in mind, first it was the redactions, okay? We couldn't get all the files. They were redacting them, and then they redacted Les Wexner. Now he's being deposed. Then, when they finally did release all the files, because there was such turmoil to get these things out, once they finally released all those things,
They put them up on the government website in such a manner that makes it so difficult to search anything. Something you have data that spreads out over thousands of pages, but you can only have 10 links per page, so you can only search 10 at a time, and there are hundreds of thousands of links to linking individual pages. It would take one person a lifetime to get through a fraction of it. It takes forever. But you know what?
And now you understand why the DOJ didn't do it perfectly when they were rushed by dumbasses like Thomas Massey and Ro Khanna.
Thank God we got the internet and we got crowdsourcing. And I always tell people at home, you want to be a part of the solution, get on there and start looking this stuff up, because there's a ton of stuff out there. And if we as citizens don't force our government to be transparent, voting's a suggestion. And you know what's crazy, folks, is normally we come out of these monologues and we have a guest for you. We reached out to dozens and dozens and dozens of conservatives. And you know how many wanted to come on and talk about it with me? 0.
And the reason why is because they're all buddies with Bannon. And there you have it. Now, when you wonder why you see so many flip-floppers on the right that claim to be MAGA one day and then they flip-flop the next day at the drop of a hat, now you understand why. They're all buddies with Bannon. None of these people have called him out. A few of them have actually defended him. Imagine if Trump was found having tried to improve Bannon's image, working with him on how to improve his image, right? If there was an email about that, these fake influencers, these fake MAGA influencers, the left, everybody would lose their mind. But Bannon does it. Mr. Podcast Guy, the king of podcasts, behind the scenes shadow podcast guy, his war room, and perfectly fine. Nobody calls him out at all, except little guys like me. Lastly, you know the left is winning when they're doing things like this. Slick sabotage. The Trump Kennedy Center was the target of what officials described as a calculated malicious attack after a toxic chemical was poured into the outdoor ice rink, severely damaging the arena and forcing the cancellation of a scheduled performance. So performers can no longer perform because liberals are violent, angry idiots. There you have it, guys. Oh, and the Pope also is not going to be here for the celebration of America's 250th birthday. He instead is going to be staying at the Vatican and standing with immigrants because the Catholic Church makes millions off of trafficking migrants to the U.S. and through the U.S. We found that out through Catholic Charities last year. Anyway, guys, that's what I got for you this Saturday. I hope you enjoyed the show. Until next time, peace out.